audience members for speech presentation. Hello, I'm going to be speaking to you about the secondary achievement gap. The secondary education achievement gap is the staggering proportion of minorities that make up the high school dropout rate in this country. If you're here and employed, or have ever been employed, or even looked at a resume, you'd see that the common denominator in all these things is that one requirement is the high school diploma. It would seem like second nature for the majority of us to check the box off in an application, but what happens to the people that can't or are unable to check that box? What happens to them? I'm not an expert in education, but I can attest that your success, or a majority of it, traces back to your high school diploma. So this can be really damaging to people who don't. And I want to say that the achievement gap is damaging our society. Today I'll be talking to you about the secondary achievement gap, the minority contribution, the adverse effects, and opportunities for success. We will begin on minority contribution. The Institute of Education Sciences National Center for Education Statistics cites the graduation rate of black students at 69%, Hispanic students at 73%, and their white contemporaries at 86%, and coming in for the win, Asian students at a whopping 88%. If you take people that have their roots in slavery as far back as 300 years, and people who have not had stability in this country for 60 years, it's inevitable that these people are prone to social setbacks. The people in our country who have had the most setbacks and oppression are the ones that are also most held back educationally. So we owe it to them that there's no gaps between the privileged and the underserved. It would seem that the opportunities afforded to us by education is as great as the tragedy afforded to those due to ignorance or lack of education. So we've identified who is affected by the gap, and now we'll take a look at the effects of the gap itself. We all know not having a high school degree is a hard life sentence from the get-go, but let's look past the stereotypes and see the real effects on us for people who cannot graduate high school. A Northeastern University study found that people who do not possess a high school degree make a lifetime net fiscal impact of negative, I repeat, negative $5,191. That means over a lifetime of someone who doesn't graduate high school, they are making a negative contribution towards a country's economic status. And who do you think is picking up the tab for that? Minorities are often financially challenged. Because of that, dropping out to work puts them in an economic situation that somehow creates a loop that makes them, they self-perpetuate their own economic instability because of economic instability, they leave something that will bring them economic stability, and they go work menial jobs that have no real potential. A research policy center in Europe sums it up best, and I quote, "Compared with other developed countries, the U.S. ranks high on income inequality and low on social mobility. This could be particularly concerning if such a trend is self-perpetuating." In this column, the authors argue that there is a causal relationship between income inequality and high school dropout rates among disadvantaged youth. In particular, moving from a low inequality to a high inequality state increases the likelihood that a male student from a low socioeconomic status drops out of high school by 4.1 percentage points more. The lack of opportunity for disadvantaged students therefore may be self-perpetuating. So like I said, it creates a loop that they'll never be able to escape from. And because of this aforementioned loop, the woes are transferred to the next generation, and not only will they suffer, we will suffer and our children suffer because people leaving a negative economic impact on this in this country. And it seems that I've left no room for hope, but hope is all there is for a better future for everybody. Let us look at the opportunities for success, for income inequality, and the secondary education achievement gap. There are many opportunities to lessen dropout rates and increase equivalency and even job training. Volunteer, and here are 3 things you can do to help. Number 1, you can volunteer in organizations that get kids back in school, like the REACH program in Houston, Texas, primarily compromised volunteers who go out door to door and reach out to kids who had only a few classes left to graduate high school, but dropped out anyway. Number 2, the GED, the Everyman Second Chance. This is one of the primary options at secondary education after high school, and now it's a bit easier to attain. Number 3, work experience programs like Goodwill, Job Corps, community college work programs. There are so many opportunities for success for people who need a fresh start. What you have heard today is the expansion of the idea that has always been embedded in our minds, but it's never been really rooted in our understanding that graduating high school is really damaging, not just for the person, but for everybody. And the secondary achievement gap is looping generations into economic instability, and we owe it to our country and those who are underserved due to conditions, due to other generations' maldoing. And I like to say that the secondary achievement gap has a population, effect, and solutions. I'm not an expert in education, but again, I like to remind you that if you can think of all the successes you've had in life, how many can you attribute to the fact that you graduated with a high school degree? Thank you for your time.